aren't the Russians using better soldiers or equipment in Ukraine? Back in the 90s, I was part of...
Be prepared, ladies and gentlemen of TikTok. We have a new propagandist.
God, I love that you made this video unstitchable, so I had to download it to do this whole piece of shit. Here we go. Ryan Macbeth is a successful YouTuber with over 700,000 subscribers, almost 750,000. Highly recommend checking him out. Ryan served in the Army for 20 years as an anti-armor and heavy weapons specialist in the infantry. So I'd say he's pretty qualified. Wouldn't you?
That is going to tell you that the Russian military sucks, their government sucks, their training sucks, their equipment sucks, their tech sucks, and that the Ukrainians are going to do great.
Okay, cool. You listed off a lot of things that you pointed out that the Russians do in fact suck at. So let's go through them.
Their government sucks.
Their government does suck. I don't think I'd ever want to be a part of any country where the second I speak out or protest, I'm labeled as an enemy of the state or I'm charged with treason. But, you know, that's just me.
That the Russian military sucks.
Their military does suck. We've seen that because it's been almost 2 years now. And the glorious second best military in the world, which you guys all claimed was going to shit stomp Kyiv in 2-3 days, where are they? Where are they right now? Oh, that's right. They're being pushed back across the entire front and still losing villages every day. They only hold 11% control of Ukrainian territory when at maximum at the beginning of the invasion in the first 2 weeks they held 37%. I don't know about you, but the math ain't mathin'. If I go from 37% to 11%, I don't think I'm doing that hot of a job.
Your training sucks.
Let's take a look at an article from the Institute for the Study of War. For the Russian military, new conscripts are supposed to undergo a 1 to 2 month basic training course. Then they're supposed to go to a 3 to 6 month advanced training course, and then they're supposed to get their units. It also states that current law precludes conscripts from being deployed to combat within 4 months of training. But we all know how that's going, right? Because that's just talking about conscripts. And we know that conscripts are going to the front lines within a matter of days. Because we've seen it. Putin even publicly apologized to all of Russia on state media because there were conscripts that ended up in Ukraine in the first week of the invasion. Their regular military training, not for conscripts, is basically the same thing. It's no different, except, you know, you could be sent to combat a lot sooner. But it doesn't matter when your government just sends you anyways.
Their equipment sucks.
Their equipment does suck. We've seen it. You guys keep talking shit about the Ukrainian equipment when basically the only thing the Ukrainians are using that the Russians have over them is the T-90 tank. And yet we've seen how spectacular those are in Ukraine, right? If you go to Oryx, which verifies everything with visual, photographic, and video evidence, and geolocates it and video tags it, they do everything. They verify their stuff, so we know it's not faked and it's unbiased. Russia has lost a total of 2,235 tanks. 1,437 of them have been destroyed, 128 damaged, 124 abandoned, and 548 captured. Now, let's scroll down here and look at T-90s, their most advanced tank. You know, the one that they say is end-all be-all, and they don't even need the T-14. If we look here, we can see that they've lost 75 of them. 75 T-90s that are supposed to be, oh so fan-fucking-tastic. But that's just a tank, tanks get blown up in war. Yeah, you're right. So let's move on to something else. From the beginning of the war, we can look to this article right here that talks about how Russia's fighting with 31-year-old tires on all their vehicles, and they're all going flat. You can even see here, proof of the manufacturing date. The reason this is important is because it was very open in the Russian military. If you look at their budgets and everything, they were given a couple million rubles in order to fix all their tires throughout the entire military a couple months before the invasion. Guess what they didn't do? They didn't fix the tires. They just left all these old Chinese tires on them that are super flat and super fucking suck. So, yeah, military equipment sucks. Or for the smoking gun, we can look no further than the Moskva. If you look at that maintenance report from the Moskva, and there are translated versions online, you can see that the ship was in such disrepair and such a crappy state that they literally could not have the internal communication system on and the radar at the same time. They had 2 anti-aircraft systems on at the same time. And the Russian soldiers were stealing so much that they had to lock away the safety equipment because they weren't allowed to have more on the ship anywhere else other than at the lower deck where only one person had the key, the captain. Oh, let's also not forget that their engines were a couple thousand hours over their maintenance cycle and even their life cycle. But yeah, Russian military equipment, good.
Their tech sucks.
Oh, and talking about their tech, let's make sure not to forget that a lot of Russian equipment uses microchips made by Texas Instruments. Microchips they can't get anymore because they don't have a semiconductor manufacturing industry, and they can't even get them through China because we blocked that stuff off from China. And then on top of that, let's look at stuff like their drones, their great tech, where they're just Nikon cameras duct taped inside a drone frame, or their fuel tanks are just water bottles. You can Google the images yourself. It's fucking hilarious. So yes, their tech sucks.
The Ukrainians are doing wonderful. This individual won't touch on all the bad shit that is going on the Ukrainian side, or all the bad shit that's going to go on the American side. And if
Okay, so because he's going over the positive stuff, which is kind of what this video is for, he's not covering the bad stuff in Ukraine. That means that Ukraine should be doing worse than they are. I mean, by your logic, Russia should be at the doorstep of Kyiv or should have already taken it over by now, especially with all the propaganda videos you've made in the past. With how great the Russian military is, I don't know why they haven't just stormed America yet. Because by your logic and by your reasoning from all the videos you've ever made, Russia's the greatest thing ever on this God's green earth, and that they should have steampiled everything. But guess what? The untrained and undisciplined Ukrainians that you like to talk about all the time are pushing Russia back every single day. And if you don't believe me, you can even look at Rybar's, a Russian live map source.
you look at the few videos this individual has already produced, you'll notice multiple times there's a Ukrainian flag in the background on one of the computer screens.
Okay, so he's got a Ukrainian flag in the background. Whoa. So fucking what? This isn't like some gotcha moment. He's not like hiding it and making subliminal messages that he's misleading his viewers. He's very open about his support. In fact, at the beginning of the war, he was helping with anti-tankers, 3D printing stuff to help them aim better. This isn't the gotcha moment you think it is. People are allowed to support who they want, and as long as they're open about their biases, like I am, what's the problem? You very openly support Russia. Should I be surprised if you have a Russian flag in the background? No, it's fucking par for the course. I'd expect it.
You can easily deduce if this individual is lying about the Russian training programs, because he premises it in the video that I am stitching, by simply looking at the American training programs for the draft. All of the men that were drafted to go to Vietnam got the training they needed to get. All of the men for World War II and past World War I, so on and so forth, got almost the exact same training as a regular everyday contract service member.
You're saying he's lying about the Russian training program because he's an American and because of the way the Americans train. Well, I mean, the way that we train is public. You can look that stuff up on Google. You can also do the same thing for the Russians. It's very public information. This isn't anything that he's hiding or lying about. In fact, we specifically train against Russian tactics because the Russian military, or the Russian Federation military doctrine, is public. It's literally the fucking Soviet military doctrine with the words Russian Federation slapped across the front of it. It hasn't changed. You said that because U.S. service members got more training for the draft in Vietnam and stuff, that the Russians should as well. But if we look here, again, you're wrong. Even for the Marine Corps alone, our boot camp is 13 weeks right now. Back then it was 11. It was cut down to 8 weeks during the Vietnam War. So no, even for us, during a time of war, when we needed to, when we were drafting people, not everyone got the same amount of training. But they should have figured it out by now, right? Well, let's look at some evidence. From Business Insider, we have an article saying that the Russian recruit says he got 5 days of training before getting sent to the front lines in Ukraine. Russian soldiers with almost no training are being told there aren't enough tourniquets for all of you. This article from New York Post talks about how mobilized soldiers are dying in Russia without having proper training. And they go on to interview the family of someone who died over there with almost no training. They say that in his youth he served in the some regiment, not even going to practice that. And they say he has 0 combat experience, and he was sent to the front almost a few days after being mobilized. This article from Forbes about Russia sending in untrained draftees and interviewing them all and seeing what happens. Newsflash, it fucking sucks for them. This article from Evening Standard talking about how new Russian troops are sent to the front line with minimal or no training. A story from Reuters, notoriously non-biased. Conscripts sent to fight by pro-Russian Donbass get little training. If you guys want a part 2 to this video, let me know if you stuck around to the end. But, Johnny, get fucking dunked on. Stop fucking lying and pushing your goddamn propaganda.